I like the way that James said it, where he said the first day is about me, the second day is about we, the third day is about community. There's an undercurrent to this, and it is the first day is name it, the second day out in the ropes course is claiming it, and the third day is, and fourth day is aiming it, aiming our strengths towards change on our school campus. And so this is really neat the way this has been designed out. And the other thing that I would say about this, remember you were saying, is like, what did you young people say after they took the assessment?
Oh, that we had no themes, right? They were all very different.
Very different. It is kind of like an emotional and intelligence brain scan, if you will, or a thumbprint of who you are. Your chances of finding someone with the same top 5 in the same order are 1 in 33 million. It is so cool when you find someone who has 3 or 4 just like you, even if it's not in the same order, because you're like, wow. The other thing is, let's pretend that we each had, what was one that stood out to you?
Do you want me to say the same one as earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Self-assurance.
Self-assurance. So here's the thing with your insight report. Self-assurance, let's just say if someone else in this room had self-assurance, your report would read differently. The reason why it would is that once you combine self-assurance with the other 4 themes, it gets different. How your self-assurance behaves and acts, and the algorithm and the intelligence behind the assessment, it's scary. I mean, I don't know, I don't mean to offend anyone, but it is kind of Big Brother-ish. Just like, how do they know this about you, from this assessment? How do they know all of this about you? The truth is they do, and it really picks out a lot. I think for everyone on the YDN team, when we first took it, we're like, wow. I mean, some things was like, you actually work better at night. I was like, well, how do you know that? Like, how do you know I work better at night? Pretty fascinating. And so young people just really get a jolt out of learning about themselves and learning about each other from this. So, cool. Anything else to add?
I think the other thing I would add, we have a handout for you guys. It was on the table when you came in. So this packet goes over those 5 areas that we talked about. So academics, organizations, relationships, career, and leadership. This is going to be a really great kind of cheat sheet for you guys after camp on how to bring this back to the classroom, how to have those strengths-based conversations with students and parents, how strengths are going to affect the work that you do back at your site.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Let's talk about your role at camp.
Okay, I feel like we're bringing in the big guns now. I'm here to go over all the paperwork and logistics with you guys. So this is a really fun part. This is where it really gets exciting. So what we're going to go over is first and foremost the packet. So this is the adult leader packet. And most of you guys have seen this already. It really just covers what the camp experience is going to be like, an overview of the camp experience on the second page. So you guys can read this to your liking, but we're really trying to go over this in our orientation today. What we're really going to spend some time focusing on is the adult leader expectations. So this is the 3rd page of the packet. And we actually felt like some of these elements were so important that we pulled it out on the green sheet that you guys have. So we're actually going to go over the green sheet, and we can grab you one if you don't have one. And so we're really looking at what needs to happen before camp, what are the elements that you guys need to be responsible for when we're at camp, and then follow up after camp. What does that look like? So our goal is really to develop young leaders through the strengths-based approach that we just talked about. Student leaders will begin the research process at camp, and they will start their action plan at camp to improve their school climate. So we're really asking them to look at safety, relationship building, and student engagement. That's really the goal of our camp experience. Before camp, you guys are already on the right track. You are here in the room for the orientation, or you will be joining us by video. And you are learning all about the expectations and requirements for your role. You must also complete all the forms, so I'm going to go over those with you guys right now. Vicky's in the back, and she actually has lists of all the forms and where your students are and where you guys are in that process. So if you guys want to check with her afterward, you can see exactly where you stand. And also taking the strengths assessment, so she can help you with the code, the instructions, and making sure that you guys have everything you need to make that assessment happen. But what we're going to spend some time focusing on right now is at camp. So what needs to happen for all the adult leaders at camp. So can someone read that first set of bullets for me during the bus ride to camp? This is middle section right here.
When we arrive. At the bullets or above the bullets?
Yeah, just can someone read out that whole section for me?
Yeah. During the bus ride to camp, with your school team, review the Strengths Quest reports. Spend 15 minutes individually reading reports, highlight important words and phrases. Strengths Quest discussion questions or bus ride? Do you want to do the bullet points
Yep.
too? Okay. What words and phrases jump out to you the most from your report? Which theme do you see yourself using the most in your everyday life? Which theme could you benefit the most from strengthening at camp? And is there a theme you have trouble identifying with? Why?
Yeah, so these discussion questions are really your first assignment after you guys get your students on the bus and we're on the way to camp. So we're actually going to be giving you guys about 15 minutes to just encourage your young people to read through their report, highlight any words and phrases that stand out to them, and start having this discussion. So we want them to come primed to camp to be ready to name, aim, and claim their top 5 talent themes. So this is really your first job as an adult leader for this camp. So we're going to have some extra sheets, but make sure and bring this with you so you can have that discussion on the bus on your way to camp. What about that next section, when we arrive at camp? Someone read that section for me?
Hang out with your school group and make some friends. This is a residential camp. There is no off time for adults. Rather, there will be supervised, lights out, time for all campers. Your responsibilities will include relationship building, encourage members of the group to learn more about one another, share some of your own stories with the students, and encourage students to step out of their comfort zone.
Okay, I'm going to pause you right there. So we called this out particularly because this is like the highlight for us. We want to make sure that amazing relationship building is happening at camp. And in some camp experiences, we've called out relationship building. And some people have actually told us, like, YDN has a way of doing this. And so we want to make sure that you guys are part of this way of doing it. And a real highlight that we've seen. So James and I just facilitated a camp at Marin Headlands Hostel with Mercy Housing. Awesome experience. And we saw the superstar relationship builder. So I don't know what her top 5 talent themes were. I'm sure they had to do with relationship building themes. By the end of camp, she had 30 buddies. So she knew 30 people's names. She had an experience with each one of these young people, and she called it out on the last day with 30 different people. We don't expect you guys to be able to do that. She was a rock star at it, and I was looking at her like, oh my gosh, as a facilitator, I couldn't even do that. But we really wanted to point her out because she was an amazing relationship builder. So she took the time to learn people's names. She did amazing relationship building with the other adult staff that was there, but she really spent a lot of time getting to know young people, sharing stories with them, and making time to have little special experiences and moments with them. So that's what we mean when we say relationship building. And like Adrian said, that's the heartbeat of what we do, and we really want to call that out. Okay, going back to you, what are those last 2 points?
General chaperoning of your school group during all activities. Remind a group of agreements. Some supervision of the youth assigned to your cabin. Making sure they're awake, at meals, in bed, cabins, and gendered and have a mix of adults and youth in each.
So we're in a really interesting position because we are going to be working with middle schoolers and high schoolers. We have female adult leads and male adult leads, and so you guys are going to be responsible for getting your group of students on the bus and making sure that they are where they are when they need to be. You're going to be the chaperone for the students you bring, but also you guys are going to be sleeping in a gendered cabin with students that you did not come with. So we're definitely trying to keep middle schoolers together, high schoolers together, boys and girls separate from one another, but that means you will be kind of a pod leader. So you're going to be a leader of a pod of about 5 to 7 students. So yesterday we almost had like the war room back here where we were having our draft pick before our other orientation. And so we actually had all of the campers listed, all of the adult staff listed, and we actually started pairing you guys up. So you will be responsible for making sure they're going to sleep when they need to go to sleep, that they are at meal times when they need to be, but your group size will be really manageable. It'll be about 5 or 6, a couple of the groups are 7. So do you guys have any questions about that? If you're really curious what groups that you're going to be chaperoning, I think we might have a list of that if you want to check in with us after the orientation.
I want to add something. As far as the cabin reflection time, we kind of build that in there as a time so that when you are in the cabin, you can get the youth that are in there together. And we can do a little bit of reflection, but it's also a good time to remind them about agreements, especially with sleep time coming up. So structuring that in there can help to calm the room down a little bit, like we're going to go over our agreements, and so Then if people are being a little bit noisy, just checking in afterwards. So I feel like it's a good time to kind of remind them, gentle reminder of the fact that, okay, we're gonna have to get up
Yeah.
early. So that's why it's kind of structured in there as that cabin reflection time to be able to meet with the groups.
Okay, so are there no electronics at all?
That's a good question.
We have not said no electronics at all. On our pack list, we have listed out like no video game systems and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But we
That's
know,
phones.
They need phones, don't they?
well, we know that you guys need to call home, call your loved ones, and we know that parents want to check in with their kids when they're at camp. That being said, there's really limited reception there. And so
Even if you had a
we
phone.
know that they will get creative in finding it and texting and calling, but I think it's going to be so limited that it will be during the downtime that they'll have to like go find it. And
That's what I want. I'm just, the only reason I'm curious is because I know a lot of kids nowadays, especially at night, it's plug in, listen to music. So that is how they come down. And so I know for my kids,
Yep.
every night, all three of my kids are, you know what I mean, iPod, whatever, and just, they listen to their music like all night before they go to bed and just kind of wind down. So if they don't have that, I know for my kids it would be a problem.
So
They'd
that
be-
we have not said no electronic devices in that sense. Like we don't want them like on their game system, like
Yeah, no.
not relationship building and not participating in activities. But definitely, I mean, we've seen that at other camps, and as long as you're not
Okay.
disturbing everyone in your room, it shouldn't be an issue.
That's why it could be on the agreements as well. You can say like no phones after 11. That's something we can
Yeah.
add into the agreements
Yeah.
if that's something we want to throw out. Just like if you do need your phones in sleep, then maybe at 10:30.
Yeah, just like, wind down,
Yeah.
kind of, not everybody,
Well-
being around people all the time is great, but then sometimes you need to just, like,
Right.
I need to
Close.
I need to
Yeah.
decompress.
Decompress, yeah.
Yeah,